What's going on, everyone? I want to make a short video on a big question that I had that I never really looked for an answer for. To be honest with you, never really searched for an answer for it, but it was a question that made me basically not want to be a believer in Jesus. And I was raised in a Methodist church. I was bored with it. I did not like going to church. I got confirmed and I didn't continue going to church. Then I became heavy into New Age spirituality after going to college. That got me looking back into Jesus a little bit. And this is a point I'm talking about where I was basically asking this question and it made me not want to believe in Jesus. I wasn't looking for an answer though, not truly truth-seeking at that time, even though I thought I was, and maybe perhaps in a certain sense of the word I was, but I was just all over the place, y'all. And I was not willing to look at Jesus and take him serious. And that led me to some pretty dark places, getting into a lot of spiritual practices and stuff. But okay, here it is. Why do people go to hell who have never heard about Jesus? Well, that's the wrong way to word it. If God is loving, why would he make it so that you have to believe in Jesus Christ, this one person, in order to go to heaven? That is the question. That's what I did not look for an answer for. It's why I thought Christianity was stupid. I still think the religion, when it is turning against from what Jesus said, it can be pretty stupid. Christianity, it can be pretty dumb. But what Jesus taught and true Christianity, which is following Jesus and what he says, is amazing. And I discovered that, I accepted Jesus, and I got rid of a whole lot of darkness in my life. Still have to face it on a daily basis, y'all. But I've got a all-powerful and wonderful, wonderful, loving creator who is basically my Father in heaven on my side at all times. So the answer to this question, why would God set it up that way, is pretty silly to ask in general, because he didn't set it up that way. Jesus Christ is not known, that name was not even known to several people that are listed as being in heaven in the New Testament. These people include just a few of them: Moses, Abraham, but it doesn't just include big names that everyone knows that are prophets of God from the Old Testament. It includes also a woman named Rahab. If you're familiar with the Jericho story, y'all, Rahab was a Gentile, meaning not a person who was in the nation of Israel. She was completely outside of the nation of Israel. She is listed to be in heaven, and she was a prostitute. Think about this, y'all. So they never heard about Jesus, but they put their faith in Jesus without knowing anything about the man, just knowing what they had encountered in the Lord in the Old Testament. I think that they encountered Jesus in the Old Testament, and there's several stories I could tell you from the Old Testament, but we can do that in more videos. But I think Jesus is very present in the Old Testament. I believe he is God. And when he appears to people, when the Lord appears to people in the Old Testament, I believe that's Jesus. So, but his body wasn't physical yet. He had a spiritual body. So let's put it this way, y'all, to expand on this. The only reason God says that anyone is in heaven is because of the sacrifice that God gave on the cross for all of the world's sin. That is the only entry we have into heaven. So I believe, with all these things considered, I believe that the message of the cross is the most powerful message that we can receive, and it is very effective, as God knew it would be, in allowing people to develop a faith in God, develop a trust in God. And considering that the only atonement for sin, the only sin offering in the Old Testament, is the blood of an innocent lamb or ram, God's pointing out very clearly what he's doing when he's sacrificing himself on the cross. The perfect man is the sacrifice for all the world's sin, and that includes past, present, future. It's pretty profound, and it is the most profound act God could have done, I believe, in order to save the world in the really kind of disgusting state that it was in. You got to remember, the Old Testament, every culture was sacrificing blood sacrifices. A lot of them were sacrificing children and people. Even the Hebrews turned against what God had instructed them to do and started doing that a few times in the Old Testament too, sacrificing people, sacrificing children. So it's pretty disgusting, the world that God had to kind of draw the nation of Israel out of. But the work that he did when he came as the man Jesus on the cross is what he basically showed the whole world that our sin is paid for. We just have to trust in God, have that faith in God. And with this gift that God gave us in his suffering on the cross for our sins, we have a gift now. We have in his life now a person that we can connect with, much more relatable than looking up towards heaven and, trying to imagine God being there. Now we have a human that we can look at. He relates to us very lovingly in that human body. He accepted sinners into his presence, and he wasn't like all high and mighty. He was actually extremely humble and washed people's feet, which is the work of a servant back in the day, back 2,000 years ago. So that's the message for today. Thanks for watching this video. God bless y'all. Go read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They are powerful and they are wonderful biographies of the life of Jesus. God bless y'all. Stay blessed.